Hello, I'm Eve Young, Jerusalem Post economics and domestic affairs correspondent. Every year on Holocaust Remembrance Day, Israelis gather around the country to remember the horrors and the heroism of the Holocaust. In one grassroots initiative, Zikaron BaSalon, Remembrance in the Living Room, Israelis meet in intimate groups with Holocaust survivors to hear their personal stories. This year, the Jerusalem Post brings you our own virtual Zikaron BaSalon. We will host Sarah Lustig Goodman, a Holocaust survivor who will share the story of her family's miraculous escape from the Nazis. She'll also share the story of her grandson Yakir, who tragically fell in the Israel-Hamas War.
My name is Sarah Lustig. Sarah Goodman. My maiden name was Lustig. I'm living in Jerusalem 10 years now, before that in Haifa. And I've been telling my story for many years because it's different. Not the camp, not the horrors of the camps. My story is an escape story with many miracles. So my story starts with my father. Very briefly, he was living with his family in Poland. And I recently realized that the fact that the parents asked him to go to Germany because the whole world was in a very bad situation financially, in a depression. He was sent to an uncle in Germany to learn a trade, and he sent money back home. And the fact that he was sent out of a tiny little hole made him more of a man of the world and helped them in the Holocaust years when we did a lot of unofficial traveling, illegitimate traveling. Just throw that in. As I speak all these years, I keep learning new things. We were living in Dortmund, where I was born. My father had been sent to learn a profession of tailoring, but as the years passed, he sent money home and he met my mother, and they decided they suited and they got married in 1930. My sister Susan, of blessed memory, was born in 32 and I was born in 36. Okay, now I was born at home because my mother realized she can't have me in the hospital like my older sister because the Nuremberg laws were passed by the Germans, which main purpose was to make life impossible for Jews. I'm not going to list all the things that were forbidden. It's much too much. Only the things that directly relate to us. So first of all, no, Jews could not use public transportation, and she could not give birth at home. My sister Susan was born in 1932, and in 1936 was my turn. And so my parents realized this is a 4-year-old in the house. Maybe they should send her somewhere. She shouldn't be around during a birth. She'll see something, hear something. It sounds very reasonable. The problem is, nowadays we would say, okay, but bring her back as fast as you can. But they figured, okay, she went to a loving aunt. She was fine where she was, and they let her stay there a few weeks for my mother to recuperate. Big mistake, because my sister saw these things as a rejection. She was kicked out of school because Jews are not allowed to learn, and nobody explained to her why. And then I'm skipping ahead to the night of Kristallnacht, the night of the broken glass, we call it in English. November 1938, I was 2.5. And the Germans went crazy. They burned places, broke places, arrested thousands of Jews. So somebody in the area told the German Nazis that's a store owned by a Jew, because he didn't have a sign on it, I'm a Jew. So what did they do? They break into the store, they wreck it, and we had internal steps leading to a small apartment on top of the store where we lived. And the steps went up and down as we needed. So they come dashing in, they wreck the store, they see the steps, they understood there must be rooms upstairs. At that point, they were only grabbing men. And they took my father. My sister woke up from the noises and woke him before the Nazis came, and he instinctively grabbed his heavy winter coat. My mother always said it saved him, because when they arrest someone and there's steps involved, they can't resist tossing the person down. That's how they arrest Jewish people, throwing them down the steps. So she said the coat prevented him from breaking a limb. Maybe. It always sounded good. Anyway, what do they do with him? This is before the camps. They drag him off to some small local jail not far away in Dortmund. So there's my mother with 2 kids at home. She realizes something is going on. when you're living it, you don't know what you know afterwards today, reading history. If the first big hint was that she had me at home, and now they dragged off my father. Now, in those days, women did what the men suggested or ordered. They were not independent. My mother suddenly figured out she's got to be independent. She had all kinds of ideas that he never could tell her because he did not have visiting hours. She asked for suggestions from neighbors and relatives, and she put together great ideas. She could not talk to her parents because my grandparents had gone to Palestine in 1932, 1933. And they encouraged everybody, but the British did not let my parents go when they asked, when they tried it. So we ended up going in the other direction. But in any case, I'm jumping ahead. So my sister came home and she got kicked out of school. And then my father got arrested. My mother realized that she's got to take charge. And the first thing she did, which was an unbelievable idea, she asked and asked. She decided she has relatives in Belgium, the Frisch family. She calls them up, and I tell kids, yes, we had phones already. And they say, yes, they'll take 2 little girls. They have 2 little girls. They sent their nursery maid, somebody that they had working with them, with the papers of the 2 cousins, Susie and Denise Frisch. And she took us back on the train as if we were the Belgium girls. Obviously, this is not legal, but to save lives of Jews, you got to do these kind of things because Jews were not allowed to travel. Now, my mother was very brave. She met this woman that she didn't even know her and gave her 2 little girls. I tell this to people, they're amazed. What a brave thing to do. Now, we're on the train. And at 2.5-year-old, of course, I'm chattering away. Nothing was explained to us. My old sister figured something's going on. So she shushed me. And the maid that was taking care of us told people that we were girls from Belgium who'd come to see a special German doctor and we were going home. Obviously a big lie, but this is a story and it worked. Had we been caught, it would have been the end of all 3 of us. It worked, and it wasn't far. Belgium is adjacent to Germany and part of the border. And we got there, we got a big welcome. Then they weren't sure that we'd arrive, but their apartment was too small for 2 more girls. They had 2 girls. So I stayed with them, and my sister went to his brother, Max Frisch, on the same street. I understand we saw each other here and there. But bottom line, I'm 2.5. I'm with strange people. I never knew them before. And they're not speaking German. And they're very kind, but I'm sure it must have been traumatic. I don't remember that it was traumatic, but somewhere inside, perhaps, it's sitting there. In any case, my mother's next idea was to get father out of jail. How do you do that? Somebody said to her, now that it's still letting Jews leave Germany in that time, if you have a visa to go somewhere. So she says, oh, wait a minute. She has a visa to the States. And she finds them in the closet or something. And guess what? There's only 3. My father, being Polish born, was not given a visa, whereas my mother was German born, and us 2 girls also. So she was given 3. That's one of the reasons they didn't use it. They didn't want to be separated. So she gets more good advice to go to a forger. The thing with advice, you got to know which advice to take. And she had a lot of help from the Almighty. There's no other explanation. She realized that they had been selling. My father had opened, because he knew tailoring, he'd opened a store that sells cloth because people were sewing at home. It wasn't ready made like we have today. So people owed money because they bought in installments. And she had the idea to go to people that she knew. Obviously, the Nazis had taken whatever money was in the store, and whatever they had in the bank had been closed off or emptied. But she went to customers. Now, some of them used the situation to say, yeah, not right now. But many gave her money, and this helped us in the long run. And once she had the money, and she went to the forger, and she also, our visas were past date. He corrected the dates, and he gave her another visa for my father. And with that, she walked down to the jail. And she got him out. Amazing. Amazing. She paid some kind of a bribe. I have no idea how much. And she's going home with him and telling him she sent the girls to Belgium. Of course, he's very appreciative that they're not in the middle of this. Now, how are they going to get to Belgium? Parents who love children want to join them, not just leave them with relatives. They're not allowed to travel. So somebody tells them about a smuggler. This is another term that's strange to my mother. The smuggler, they have to meet him in a different town. To get to the different town, they have to get on a train. Jews are not allowed to travel on trains. Somebody else gives them advice. You should travel under the train. What? How do you do that? And as much as I've been telling them this for years and years, it sounds incredible. But first of all, the trains went at a third of the speed they go now. Second of all, they sat on the ground and not with the equipment, I don't know what to call it, in a tunnel. So it's a little easier to imagine. It's still very, very weird. And of course, if you're riding under a train, you cannot take children and you cannot take suitcases. They of course, were young, reasonably young. And this is what they did. It's just incredible. And it was, as I lecture, I've heard people tell me, in my family, they also talked about riding under a train. I've had it verified. They get to the smuggler in a different town. I don't know the name of the town. He has a big truck with a hidden cabin between the driver and the merchandise. He pushes them in there. They give him money, whatever he asks. And he pushes in two more young Jewish girls. They don't know each other. Okay, we're off. You can't see the hidden section from the outside. He starts driving. There's a call. A stop, check. They want to make sure there's none. Then that's the German police, Nazis. Where is he going? He has to show his papers, and they just randomly shoot into the truck. Maybe there's somebody inside. He goes, and again they get stopped. So he asks for money. Look how they're wrecking my truck. Give me more money. The second time, give me more money. The third time already, they were able to get off the truck and cross the border. The young girls, I never knew who they were. Jewish girls. At some point, they ran out of money, and my father, the driver wanted to just throw them out. My father didn't agree to that, so he paid something for them, which is also a big, big good deed, what we call a mitzvah. Okay, now they're coming into Belgium, and they're slowly finding their way to the Frisch family. The Frisch family had been notified, and they're waiting, but they're very skeptical if they'll actually get out of Germany, because even without internet, they knew that things were very unpleasant, to say the least. Okay, I'm sitting there, my sister's sitting there, we're little kids. Knock on the door, my parents. I don't know who these people are. 3 months have gone by. And then suddenly it clicks, and I burst out crying. And my sister Susan is crying, and Mrs. Frisch is crying. So my mother joins in. My father is sitting on the side, and he's looking at this hysterical scene, and he makes two very important decisions. Now, people in the audience tell me that's nonsense. It's not up to him. I agree. He decides things that are not completely in his hands. But they made them move faster and go and go and go. What did he decide? We're not staying in a country that gets invaded by Nazis, and we're not separating one from the other. And then that pushed them. Somebody else would wait to sell something, or for somebody to get over a cold, or all kinds of reasons. Whereas my parents felt we have to keep going, going, going. Now, we went through 5 countries. I got all hoarse. We got through 5 countries in Europe. I was born in Germany, but this is from Belgium, France, Spain, Portugal. That's 5. Took 2.5 years because we weren't on a trip with an organized guide. We were sneaking and trying to find money. I never heard details of what they went through, but they were wandering. They didn't have where to sleep or where to eat, and they managed somehow to get to Portugal. Was not at war. My father always said we were always one step in front of the Nazis as they kept invading one country after another. Now, we wrote a book about our story, and there's all kinds of little anecdotes about things that happened in this country or in that country. But I want to tell you about Portugal. Portugal, we're in a little apartment, and my father goes out to get visa. England says no to Palestine, no to England. America says no. He didn't give up, my father. He kept going and going and going. Finally, he gets to Cuba. And Cuba, they say, okay. And today, with my years of talking about this, I've come to the conclusion that Cuba said yes because he said he knew to work in diamonds, which he learned when he was in Belgium. He didn't announce that he's just a tailor. And in Cuba, Havana, in those years, they had a very big industry of diamonds working with the States. And when we got there, he went to work on that. But before we got there, we're on a boat, maybe 2 weeks, and we land June 1st, 1941. The war is raging in Europe, but we left burning Europe. And a week and a half after we land, my younger sister Hadassah is born, of blessed memory. She just recently left us. And we end up sitting in Cuba for 4 years. But it was good. My mother opened a little restaurant with kosher food. My father started working. And one day he comes home. The boat that didn't let us go on it sank because a torpedo landed on it from the Germans. So for me personally, that was another miracle. I would have been on that boat. All the passengers and the people, the sailors, all drowned. I have to say, their exit from Germany, like the way they got me, those are all small miracles. But this is something big. So we tried to get into the States, and after 4 years, we had an uncle there who certified that we're honest, good people, that we're not stealing thieves, and we're not murderers. We came in and we started struggling in America. My parents had to find a way to make a living. They did all kinds of things. And some of the time, I was taking care of my younger sister because my parents didn't have money for a Jewish school. I went to a public school. My sister Hadassah, of blessed memory, ended up going to a girls' Jewish school. This is the basic story of how we got out. Now, in America, I'm going to public school. A lot of Jewish kids there, not majority, but they don't know what the Sabbath is, Shabbat. They don't know from kosher food, and none of the holidays. I can't visit a friend, can't eat by her. But by the age of 10 and a half, 11, somebody took me to Bnei Akiva. And today I say Bnei Akiva saved my life. Saved my life, not physically, emotionally, psychologically. And I progressed in Bnei Akiva. I became a counselor, and when I became very, very Zionistic, my parents were Zionistic. I had grandparents in Palestine, but the youth movement did its work on me. And at a young age, when I finished high school, I decided that's it, I'm going to make aliyah. I worked a bit. I figured I have to have some money, but before that, I was in Hachshara, New Jersey. 2 years later, Bnei Akiva started running Hachshara, which is preparing to make aliyah. At that time, they specifically encouraged us to go to kibbutzim. So Hachshara was a framework where you learned some Hebrew, you learned how to cook, or now I don't know exactly what the men learned in agriculture, but this is a program, part of Bnei Akiva program. So I got to the kibbutz, and I had friends. We were part of a group, and I got married on the kibbutz to a man I knew from the Hachshara. And he very quickly decided he wants to go back to the States for another degree. Okay. Actually, he wasn't very happy on the kibbutz. I said, okay. I figured we'll learn and we'll go back again, not realizing that if we're not going back to the kibbutz, we need money. So it ended up taking a few more years. In 1973, we came back, and at that time we had our 3 children. We came back with the 3 children, and we went to Haifa. But before we left, we made my oldest son, Yonah, he had his bar mitzvah. His birthday's in August. And when we came to Israel in December 73, my sister said she's making him another bar mitzvah, with the relatives living in Israel. Okay. So nowadays I say we had the bar in New York and the mitzvah in Israel. I like to make jokes. Okay. The kids very, very happy to be here, very quickly adjusted. We started learning. The years went on. Yonah went to the army. And they got older, they got married. Today, I'm very proud to say all my children followed my way. All my children live in Israel. All my grandchildren. We wanted to celebrate 50 years of aliyah, but because of the war, it was 51. So, okay, we celebrated 51. And the whole family, which is very large now, with all the great grandchildren, we went to Bet Shan, where there's a big youth center. And because we're a large group, we asked them to give us some kind of a meeting room, a hall, which we got. And we had a wonderful weekend. And as I said, everybody came and they gave me. Now I have pictures to show, but the picture of what they gave me there, I don't have in this size. They gave me a family tree that is a meter by a meter, with pictures of everybody by family. It's like a tree with dates. All right, I have some pictures from Europe, and obviously my parents could not take this under the train. They got these pictures from their parents, my grandparents who were living in Haifa. Eventually, they shared pictures. The first one on top is my father with his sister before he was married. The bottom one, when I didn't mention this, when they got engaged, and her parents were very happy, they decided it's worth to make a little trip to his family in Poland. At that time, you could still travel. So two families could meet and decide that they agree on this match, which this was the so-called engagement party. Okay. Now here, the top corner is me and my sister as little kids, 6 and 2. This is my mother with me, and this is in Belgium, where there was no war at the time. On the bottom are some cousins, and this one is my father and mother, also before the war. This one is very interesting. My grandparents had left Europe, and in the meantime, years passed, and my parents had two more daughters. They only knew my oldest sister as a little kid. They decided to come for a year to visit us in New York. We were very excited. We hadn't seen them. We didn't have relatives. We either lost them or they were living somewhere else. So we enjoyed them. And guess what? They came in 47, and in 48, Israel had a war of liberation. Milchemet HaShichrur. And my grandparents were 67, but they're not going to sit in New York if there's a war going on. They want to go home. Their plan had been to visit for a year. They cut it to 9 months. And my parents argued with them. What are you going to do? They were 67. You're not going to get into the army. No, they want to help. They want to go. They want to be there. And they went. And they went. So, and this is my little sister Hadassah. And born in 41, the big bow ties in the hair are very popular in those years. Okay, now this man, I want to tell you who this is. His name is Arista de Sousa Mendes. He was the consul sent from Portugal to give people visa to go to Portugal, not to Jews and not to other undesirables. I'll let you figure out what that could mean. He listened to them until he didn't listen to them. He decided he could see people in the streets. He decided he must give visa to Jews. And we got from him. So later years, when I heard this, I sent a message. They have a site on the computer. So now I'm listed in his site with my sister that he saved us. His family, now eventually he got caught. He got fired from his job, and his family was literally without food. He was treated as if he'd been a foreigner, not a Portuguese. Yeah, 40 years after his death, Portugal recognized that he'd been a hero. Israel recognized it way before, because so many people came and said he helped us get out. This is the three of us in adult years. This is Hadassah, this is Susan, and this is me. We went to visit Susan, who did not come to live in Israel. She visited for a year, and then she went back. We went to visit her. We went to visit her son there. And today, both my sisters are not with me anymore. Now, I have group pictures here. I'm going to show you 4, and each one successful is more people and more children as the family grows. This first one, we celebrated 40 years in Israel. This one was for my 80th birthday, and everybody came, except someone had, I'm 89 now, so this is 9 years ago. Somebody had army duty, and of course there are babies in carriages you can't see. And one child was doing end of year tests. Okay, this big one, this is my 45th birthday. No, sorry, 45th aliyah, 45 years aliyah. And this last one is my 85th birthday. As you see, there are more. Now, this year we celebrated 2 months ago. It was supposed to be 50 years, but because of our war, it was 51. And everybody came. We were a large group. And today, I have to say, my children are all following our ways. They all live in Israel. They're all academic. They've got all kinds of degrees and doing wonderful things. And I have today, thank God, 42 great-grandchildren. My sister Hadassah has 31, and there's 2 in the States. More grow here. Together, we can say, because my parents did what they did, 75 great-grandchildren are in there, none of whom would have been here. And we're very proud of the family. And anyone who comes to visit me can see on my wall in my house the big family tree that they now made. Of course, the family tree was accurate for the date that they made it. And since then, another baby has been born. And one granddaughter just got engaged. Boy, thank God, thank God. Unfortunately, October 7th was the reason we did not celebrate 50 years that year Hanukkah, because the war broke out. And I had a lot of grandchildren involved as soldiers, as heroic soldiers. And unfortunately, I have to share with my readers that I lost my grandson Yakir. Yakir Yedidia Shenkolevsky was 21, and he was part of the Yerucham Yeshiva that has a special program for the boys to learn and to learn Torah and to serve in the army. And he died very much in the beginning of the war in December in his tank in Gaza, which was a horrible shock, and we're still, of course, we're still mourning him. He left 3 brothers and a sister. And Yakir was a real hero. He was not accepted to be in a job like a tankist. When he had to do his medical exam, the army said there's something medically wrong with one of his legs. And then somebody told him, if you go to physiotherapy, you'll get out of that. And he decided he doesn't want to take an easy job. He wants to be combat. That's the word I'm looking for. Words. I speak both in Hebrew and in English. He wants to combat. And he went and he did the physiotherapy for 3 months. And guess what? The army took him with open arms. And he was in the tank with it. And it wasn't with his classmates because they'd gone 3 months ahead. But he accepted that. He made new friends. We're very proud of him. And people have done all kinds of things to honor his memory and to honor the memory of all the soldiers. At the funeral of Yakir, my son-in-law, whose mother was sitting next to me, told his mother, I thanked you in the past. Even today, at the funeral of Yakir, I still thank you because this is where we want to be and this is where we belong. And I tell my Jews all over the world, if you can manage it, come. We'd love to have you here. This is our home. I have to say, my children thank me for coming and bringing them. And we are a very warm, loving family. And we're in touch with my sister's family. The cousins all know each other. We lived together near each other for many years in Haifa and Neve Sha'anan. And I'm very proud of them. and I'm very happy to share my story with the Jerusalem Post readers. Thank you for inviting me.